Hey everyone, many of you saw my recent video making fun of Terrence Howard on the PBD podcast. Well, the very next day after I put that one out, he appeared on Bill Maher's show spewing much of the same crap. At first I thought it'd be overkill to cover it, but then I remembered how much I can't stand Bill Maher, and I realized that this would be a great opportunity to make fun of him too, so I decided to do it. But Dave, shouldn't you love Bill Maher? He did all that stuff against religious dogma, and he's such a smart, hip, liberal dude. No, he's an obnoxious, anti-woke, curmudgeonly asshole who's been completely captured by the right over the past few years, along with dozens of other pseudo-intellectuals. And he is also constantly defending Israel's genocide of Palestinians, which single-handedly bumps him up to deserving of being crapped on relentlessly. So today we get a 2-for-1. Anyway, the fact that Bill had Terry on his show is hilarious to me. That Rogan would have him on makes perfect sense. Rogan almost exclusively platforms charlatans at this point. PBD is a scammer, so that's not a surprise either. But for Bill to do it, it's just him announcing loud and clear that he's done even pretending to be an intellectual. He's just an angry old man trying to seem hip by riding whatever is trending and dousing it in his superiority complex. So let's get started.
How are you?
Such a pleasure, man.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, dude.
Wow, you hold up well. Look at
You
that.
look at you 70,
Look at that.
man. I don't know how you did that. I'm like,
Weed.
yeah, well,
Weed. Never got married.
well, I did that 4 times.
I would all to clean liquor.
Ooh, see, now I owe mine to just sheer defiance. They've wanted me to grow old and die so many times.
Who's they?
The whole system.
What a unique blend of delusions we are setting up here right from the handshake. A fine bouquet. Congratulations abound, while everyone watching acknowledges that Terry looks ridiculous as always, while Bill looks precisely like the senior citizen that he is. Bill brags about substances and bachelorhood, while Terry brings up his multiple wives he's beaten up, and then immediately launches into the faceless, nameless boogeyman, they, and the system that's keeping him down. This should go well.
I disrupt shit.
But that's why we like you. I mean, that's why they like me.
I'm gonna need to see some evidence that people like you, Bill. Also, towing the line for imperialist settler colonialism isn't exactly disrupting anything.
Rappers, they're all so tough until you hear their real name.
Yeah, or until you see them at a puffy party.
Oh,
Then they're not tough no more. I'm surprised that the rap game is still alive.
It looks like Terry is now going to bring up Puff Daddy on every podcast he ever does, in this case only 2 minutes in, and the reason is obvious. In order for a narcissistic serial wife-beater to look good, he has to stand next to a serial rapist guilty of sex trafficking. Yes, Terry, you're not as bad as Puffy. You're still a horrible person.
it's a way to have Jing, I drink it. It's a way to have diet soda without any chemicals. RFK recommends it.
Ah, yes, the old blatant product placement while referencing a total maniac destroying public health. What do you think these idiots have to say about RFK?
What happened to him, man?
Oh, Puffy?
RFK.
Oh, RFK.
No, what happened to him? He was
Well,
so against MMR vaccine, so against it. And then he gets into the office, and I've seen him, I've met him. Did they pull something out on him?
first of all, just to get confirmed, he probably had to say a few things that he's not completely on the page with. But, you know, he sat here, and we talked for a long time, and he said to me at one point, I said something about anti-vaxxer, and he said, "That's what you think I am?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And that's coming from someone who's been called an anti-vaxxer a lot. And I'm, you know, it's all how you define this. I don't think I'm an anti-vaxxer. I think vaccines are a great tool that we have. I just don't want everyone you come up with. I want to be able to make that decision for myself based on my personal health profile.
Well, you can, so only anti-vaxxers whine like this instead of acknowledging that it's not an issue. Nobody forced anyone at gunpoint to get COVID vaccines, as opposed to other vaccines in history that have been compulsory. And Terry is pretending there's a problem with the MMR vaccine, so he's clearly on the Andrew Wakefield bus. Also, can we drop this ridiculous act where we pretend RFK isn't the world's premier anti-vaxxer when you spend decades deliberately spreading disinformation information about vaccines, including the autism bullshit, and even have ties to law firms that sue vaccine manufacturers, just saying, "I'm not an anti-vaxxer," is only going to fool the dumbest people alive, like the two clowns in this room.
You're known as a great environmentalist. You're just saying that the pollution is in our bodies from other things. It's not just what's in the air. It could be vaccines, and not every vaccine, but who knows, in combination with all the other things that are in our body, mercury and fungus and x-rays. How many x-rays have you had? And electromagnetic energy. 50,000 chemicals we didn't have 50 years ago.
Bill, you sound like the moderator of a Facebook group for dim soccer moms with too much time on their hands. What vaccines? What chemicals? Electromagnetic energy? Just blindly gesturing at things that sound scary to you is not an actual position. Say something or keep your mouth shut.
We don't know what all these factors are, but when he says this is probably what's behind most of our health problems, that resonates with me. That's what's different about when I was a kid and the food was just, maybe it wasn't great, Wonder Bread, but most of it was just, it wasn't processed.
What does processed mean to you, Bill? What are you even talking about? Did you know that you can still get Wonder Bread at the store today? And other breads that are way better for you than that, with all kinds of grains in them and shit. Have you been in a supermarket in the past 40 years, or does your personal assistant do all the shopping? I'm really tired of so many people on the internet whining about how bad food is now. Go to the fucking store, buy some fruits and vegetables or whatever other healthy food you want, and eat it. Nobody is forcing you at gunpoint to eat McDonald's. Just don't fucking eat it, okay? This myth that all the food sucks now is just so infantile and completely divorced from reality that I can't take anyone seriously who talks this way. Even with recent inflation, anybody can go to the store with $10 and get some rice or whole grain pasta and a bucket full of high quality produce and have their whole family eat like royalty compared to any other era in human history without practically lifting a finger. Show some gratitude.
Not the COVID vaccine, just me dealing with my children about, am I going to vaccines to give them in school? And I was like, no, I don't want to give them the MMR and all of that, because when
they don't need it.
No.
Really? 2 kids died in Texas last month from measles. So yes, they do need it. And anyone who says otherwise can go fuck themselves. You're murdering children. So much for the anti-vaxxer script of, I'm just against COVID vaccines, not all vaccines, since idiots like you consistently demonstrate that you are indeed against all vaccines, even ones like MMR that have a decades-long track record of being exceptionally safe and effective.
And when we were kids, back in 1969, when I was born, and they gave me the shot, it was delivered with duck embryo DNA. Then in 1970, when they got the abortion clinics, they started using human DNA. Now, the duck embryo DNA would not bond. It would deliver the vaccine. It would deliver the little protein that was necessary, but it didn't have any match to your DNA, so it would be taken out of the body. But because they're using human DNA cells from the abortion clinics, those now bond into our cells and try to bond with it. That's why we have all the psoriasis now.
Oh my God, it burns. The stupidity burns so much. Why do I keep doing this to myself? Terry, you brain-dead twat waffle, they used to produce the vaccine by culturing the rubella virus in duck embryos. This is what caused the virus to attenuate or weaken, thus allowing us to inject the weakened rubella virus. They weren't injecting any part of a duck embryo or any duck DNA. Then what? It would deliver the little protein, but it wouldn't have any match to your DNA? That means absolutely nothing. And the human ones do what? Try to bond into our cells? More gibberish. You don't know what cells are, or what DNA is, or what vaccines are, and you have the intellect of a third grader. Good thing Bill is super smart. He'll be able to weigh in on all this, I bet.
I cannot endorse or refute what you just said, because I don't know anything about that. I do know, the course, when they make a vaccine, they do have to put something that will be the delivery system. It used to be, for sure, poisonous mercury. Thimerosal.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bill admits he can't refute any of the insanely dumb shit Terry just said, even though most ninth graders could do it, and then his attempt to make up for it is to mispronounce thimerosal and proudly announce that he has no idea what it is. Amazing. Thimerosal was not a delivery system, it's a preservative, and it's not mercury, it's a compound with a mercury atom in it. Thimerosal is not mercury any more than amino acids are diamonds. Looks like the competition in this room for knowing the least about chemistry is going to be pretty heated.
So the fact that you're saying ducks,
They
okay,
used to grow it in duck embryo, but now once they
yeah.
started getting all of the fetuses from the abortion clinics, they started using the DNA from them to as a delivery system, and that's our bodies don't like having some foreign thing.
No, vaccines do not contain human DNA. Also, you have no ability to express a coherent thought regarding what DNA is, or how foreign DNA in the bloodstream would interact with your own genome, since it wouldn't do that at all.
I feel like we are just marching toward this place where we accept more and more of this kind of environmental pollution. Even indoor pollution is a thing. People die of indoor pollution. It can be the formaldehyde in the fucking sofa.
Yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? You're concerned about formaldehyde in your sofa? And what amount would that be, Bill? Do you have any idea? Here's some food for thought. How much formaldehyde is in an apple? And let me stop you before you interject. No, not some futuristic imaginary GMO Frankenfood apple that doesn't even exist in the first place. A plain old apple, just like any that has existed for hundreds of years. Want to take a guess? Between 6 and 22 milligrams per kilogram. How about pears? Triple that. Formaldehyde is in a lot of stuff. You don't know what it is. You couldn't draw me the structure of formaldehyde if your life depended on it. You don't know how it interacts with the body. You have no idea how much of it is in what objects. You're just saying chemicals bad and patting yourself on the back for no reason. In general, there are no bad chemicals and good chemicals. Literally any chemical can kill you if you ingest enough of it, even water. The dose makes the poison. By the way, indoor pollution, things are getting so much worse indoors, are they? That's funny. I remember when you could smoke cigarettes literally anywhere. Now you can't. We also used to use asbestos, lead paint, all kinds of harmful stuff. But do you know what happened? We learned more science and then developed regulatory bodies to determine what manufacturers can and can't put in their products in order to protect public health. The very same agencies that oligarchs like Elon Musk are actively trying to destroy so that the private sector can run amok and subjugate everyone into oblivion, while idiots like you and Terry can't seem to get his nuts out of your mouth. Everything you say, everything you pretend to understand, everything you rage against, everything you support is the precise opposite of the truth. You morons represent the antithesis of truth. It's breathtaking watching two elderly toddlers sitting in chairs, filming themselves frantically out-stupiding each other while sipping alcohol and convincing themselves that anybody should give two shits what either of them have said in their entire lives.
Okay, we have all this waste from the refineries. What do we do with it? Well, in the early 1910s, 1920s, they called all of the chemists together and was like, "Hey, how can we use this?" And they end up making all of these things, and they turned a lot of our pills and medicine into carbon or methylene based or oil based from all the refineries.
Yeah.
Dear God, turning medicine into carbon, methylene-based, oil-based? I will never understand how this asshole has the balls to open his mouth and try to talk about chemistry. The disregard for middle school level science principles all the way to flat out making up words. How is this a person? Nobody magically turned pills into carbon. Medicine is not coal. You're a moron.
Everything.
And it's also a known fact that when they come up with a drug, and it doesn't work on one thing, or sometimes because it's like it works too well, in other words, it kills you, they don't throw it away exactly because that's bad money after good, okay? What they do is they repurpose it.
Retroactive.
They do that many times. It didn't work on cancer, but we got a whole stockroom of it. No, I'm sure it's
Yeah.
not quite like that.
Yeah, it's nothing like that at all. A drug that works so well that it kills you? What? Sometimes we discover that a drug has an alternate use. So what? You're acting like we just arbitrarily decide to market it for some other purpose it doesn't actually have. Do you have any clue how drugs work? Do you have any concept of how small molecules interact with receptors or enzymes? Do you have zero grasp of the benefit of repositioning a drug for a novel purpose that has already gone through clinical trials and had its safety demonstrated? Of course you don't. So why are you opening your dumb mouth about it? Modern medicine is a fucking miracle, and you assholes are here shitting on it to feel smart.
It is suspicious to me.
Well, what made the cancer go away was the ivermectin, the antiparasitics, all of those things that they were saying, oh, that you give to dogs, things of that nature, because cancer, I don't believe, and from looking at it, cancer isn't just some deformity that happens to a given cell.
Correct.
I won't lie, I am genuinely surprised that in this idiot contest between Terry and Bill, they're pretty much tied at this point. I knew Bill was dumb, but Terry level dumb? It's a little shocking. Terry pretends to know what cancer is, says something insanely stupid, and Bill says, correct, just to make sure everyone watching knows he's just as dumb as Terry. Cancer is when mutated cells are dividing uncontrollably. That's it. Anyone who says that cancer is anything but what I just said does not know what cancer is. And no, ivermectin does not cure cancer. Antiparasitics in general do not cure cancer. How the fuck would medicine that kills parasites cure cancer, genius? Go ahead and explain that to me mechanistically. Oh, right, that's impossible since you don't know what cancer is.
I mean, one of the things that I saw with the cancer cells, it behaves exactly like an embryo. It wraps itself in dopamine, and therefore the dopamine is the fuel of the body, the gold of the body. So the body starts sending blood vessels to get to this dopamine.
I just don't know how Terry does it. Every time I make a video about him, no matter how much idiocy I've already heard tumble out of his mouth, he manages to say something so profoundly next level moronic that I'm genuinely shocked. He's the limbo king of stupidity. Nobody on earth could come up with a statement as dumb as this, no matter how hard they tried. Cancer is an embryo that wraps itself in dopamine and sends blood vessels to get the dopamine? What do you even do with something like this? Spend 10 minutes explaining embryology? Explain how cells can't wrap themselves up in neurotransmitters? Point out that cells can't conjure up blood vessels out of thin air and tell them what to do? Why? Why am I doing this?
And then it starts controlling the rest, and it keeps telling all the other, at the end of every chromosome, there's these telomeres.
Telomeres.
Yes.
Yes, I take something to repair them.
Terry said a word that Bill has heard of. Neither of them know what it means, but they recognize the word. Great work, guys. Remember when Bill was whining about chemicals being everywhere? Do you think he could explain to you in detail why he takes this pill he's talking about? I'd bet my life savings he can't.
But the telomeres, right, I mean, as I understand it as a silly layman, is just, yes, the sort of like the frayed end of the cell. And, of course, we keep replicating our cells.
Sure, Bill. Telomeres are the frayed ends of cells. Great work, champ.
Pretending that ivermectin was somehow evil. It wasn't evil. It won the Nobel Prize in 2015. They say it's cured probably more people, except penicillin.
Nobody was pretending that ivermectin is evil. A bunch of lying frauds were claiming that it cures COVID and a bunch of other stuff, and educated people pointed out that no, it fucking doesn't. How is that demonizing anything, Bill? Do you not see a problem with how you just endlessly parrot conservative anti-science talking points?
The truth is probably in the middle somewhere, which is that for some people, yes, it probably has properties that mix, because again, we're all individuals. This one-size-fits-all medical treatment bugs me.
Yeah, how dare we think that human beings would react in the same manner to specific compounds? It's not like we're all the same type of organism and therefore possess all the same tissues and organs and organ systems and enzymes and receptors. How silly to presume that members of the same species would react the same way to the same substances. I know a guy down the street who drinks hydrogen cyanide instead of water and breathes chlorine gas instead of oxygen. Everybody's different, right, Bill?
My wife does all the cooking. I don't cook no more. I used to cook,
Really?
but it's like when Jimi Hendrix, when the Beatles, when Eric Clapton supposedly saw Jimi Hendrix playing and he took his guitar and he put it on the stage
I'm
and
sure he
left it
did,
there.
yeah.
When I saw my wife cook, I stopped cooking, and I haven't
Really?
cooked in 12 years because, I
Wow.
mean, you'll meet her. She's perfect.
Yes, Terry, you and your wife are the two best chefs that have ever lived, just like you're the greatest scientist and mathematician of all time. Great to see that your unwavering narcissism extends to your loved ones as well. Anyway, that's enough chit-chat. It's time for Terry to start spinning some tall tales.
But it was right after I started filing the patents, and then after doing the 6-year thorough investigation, making sure that I was kicked out of all the banking, all of the huge banks all sent me back my money. And I was like, what is this about?
I'll take things that definitely have never happened for 200, Alex.
If you plead guilty to a fraud misdemeanor, we'll let everything go. I was like, no, let's take this to court. Let's put this in front of a jury of my peers, and let's see how you behave with me. Then they walked away, and then they brought something back later. But it was all because of challenging this status quo in the way that I have.
Yes, Terry, everyone in the world is thinking about you all the time and how much you challenge the status quo with your dumb shapes and shitty math. These are the types of delusions that should tip off absolutely every other person to the fact that Terry is batshit insane.
I got suspended 15 times every year. 15 times a year, all through elementary, got expelled 4 times, always for insubordination. Always for insubordination, because I would ask the question, why? Why? Why is this? What? And they would sit up and say, because. And it's like, no, don't.
I'll stick with the category, Alex. Things that definitely have never happened for 400. Terry, absolutely nobody will believe that you got expelled 4 times for asking a question. Dial it down a notch or 7. Then try and figure out a way to complete a single interview without lying every single time you open your mouth.
My wife, Mira, my one. I met her on October 3rd, 2013. We got married October 26, 2013. I knew I'd been around for thousands of lifetimes because when I saw her, the moment I saw her, everything, I realized I'd been looking for her for 1,000 lifetimes and didn't even know. And that's the connection, that it wasn't best sex in the world. It was everything that I could imagine. And at the time, I had just been accused of domestic violence from my wife, Michelle. I had I was done with everything. I mean, I was kicked out of Hollywood for the most part. I was canceled.
Right.
I owed $500,000 from my patent attorney, $400,000 to my divorce attorney. She went and covered everything.
Wow, so after getting caught beating up your wife and being cast out of Hollywood for being an insufferable asshole and owing money all over town, you gaslit some poor woman, got her to pay your debts, and she's still stuck in your hellish web to this day. That's fucking tragic.
So,
And she didn't look at me crazy when I first started talking about 1 times 1 equal 2. And I wasn't talking about 1 times 1 doesn't
I
equal
read
1.
I read about that.
In linear math, you still can use the 1 times 1 equaling 1 for things laid out. But if you're trying to measure this room or measure some space, but if you're talking about fluid flow, gas flow, water flow, all of that has to be measured through volumetrically.
Here we go. It had to happen at some point. Terry is finally trying to figure out a way to dial back the dumbest thing he's ever said in his entire life. After endless humiliation, he's now qualifying his shit math and saying that sometimes 1 times 1 can equal 1. Not just for money, like he said on PBD, now it's for all kinds of stuff, even for measuring a room or whatever. Just not for volumetrics, some other bullshit, even though rooms have volumes that are calculated the same way as areas. So basically, he's admitting that 1 times 1 equals 1. He's sorry, and please stop bringing it up. Looks like you won't get any pushback from Bill here, since he read about that and has no further comments. Great work, Bill.
Because 666, 6 times 6 times 6 ends up being 206, 200, 216. 216 is the key of C, or key of A. 432, you double that.
Wait. 216 is the what?
666. If you do 6 times
Yeah,
6,
I got that part.
6 times 6 is 36.
I get it. 216
216
is the what?
is is the key of A, which
What does
is
that mean? The
that's
key of A.
the key of A, the tone of A.
What is
The tone of A.
It's like a fever dream. We're going from numerology to Terry having no idea what basic musical terminology means. It's legitimately historical what we are witnessing. All Bill has to do is ask, what? And Terry starts fumbling, changing from key to tone so he doesn't know what a key is, and then pretending that 216 hertz is some special note. It isn't. It's between G sharp 3 and A3. It's not even a note in equal temperament. And even if it was, so what? The note A is the devil? Spit it out, Terry.
When the Beatles went to India, they tuned their instruments when they got back all to 432 and remastered all of their stuff because 432 is the common factor of the universal tone. That's the sound of our earth.
What an exquisite bullshit Sunday. No, the Beatles did not do that. They occasionally experimented with alternate tunings, but they didn't just suddenly and permanently adopt an entirely different system of pitches. Then Terry admits he doesn't know what mastering is. When you remaster music, you aren't changing all the pitches or editing the music, you're just improving the sound quality. Then comes the whipped cream of idiocy all at the end. The common factor of the universal tone, that's very not a thing. There is no universal tone, and you don't know what factor means. The sound of Earth? So we're going from the whole universe to just one planet already? And what is this sound? The entire planet makes one sound at one particular frequency? How the fuck does that work, and where can we hear it? I'm standing on the Earth right now, and I don't hear shit. Is this like your beryllium thing again?
Everybody's primal. We're still 98.7% simian.
Yeah.
There's only 1.3% differentiation between us and them. And that 1.3%
Yeah.
we call human. And we have to abide by that. But 98.7% of us is still trying to be that gorilla ape. That's who we are.
We are.
So how are they locking people up for killing someone that's sleeping with their wife when 98% of them is what you can't do that to the chimpanzees. All males fight over women in every species.
Yeah, that's definitely not true. There are plenty of species where females are larger and more aggressive than males. It's called female-biased sexual dimorphism, and it's commonly displayed in reptiles, amphibians, sharks, insects, even some mammals like whales and hyenas. There are plenty of species where females even fight each other for access to males, but we don't need to get into a zoology lesson. Terry's just trying to outline a case for why he should be able to punch anyone he wants in the face and not get thrown in jail for it. Because, you see, he's mostly a chimpanzee. It's not his fault, you guys.
I know, but again, it's going to be harder in your life because married chicks are still going to look at you and go,
I'm their pass.
Yes, correct.
I'm their
Yes,
pass.
yes.
And you too. You still get it. So
Oh, please.
Just so you know, this is like the 4th time that Bill is telling Terry how super hot and sexy he is. I just didn't show the other times. Yes, there are so many women out there whose hall passes are Terrence Howard and Bill Maher. Dream on, guys.
Don't
instead of
deprive.
chasing the camera.
Yeah,
but
don't deprive us of
no,
that
I'm
era.
in the chitlin circuit now. They stuck after I sued Fox.
What does that mean?
The chitlin circuit.
Oh, I know what it really is, but what's
Yeah.
it for you?
That's no studio movies, no, big television stuff. Everything is on the outskirts.
Yeah.
Why? Because you don't fuck with the mouse. I fucked with the mouse. You don't. I sued the mouse. I sued Fox.
well,
I
soon.
sued, and I'm suing CAA right now.
Oh, well,
it's just, but it's about my money. Somebody take $300 million from you. You're like, dude.
Bill was pressing Terry about his claim that he wants to stop acting, and Terry let the cat out of the bag. Nobody will hire him because he's an asshole who goes around suing everybody for who the hell knows what reason. $300 million, Terry? Really? What the fuck did you do that earned that much money, and how did anyone take it from you? We're all dying to hear that story.
Yeah, there used to be like so many different kinds of wheat. But because of, I can't even explain it, but the economics, and it was more economical. So they,
And that's where Monosat came in, and they're just keeping the same.
Monsanto?
Monsanto.
Yes.
Monostat.
Because you're stoned now.
No, that's what
why.
it was. I'm thinking of a yeast infection.
What?
Monostat. They use it for a yeast infection.
Terry took some hits off of Bill's joint, and now we get to enjoy his insane word associations, like pivoting from agriculture to yeast infections because he thinks monostat sounds like Monsanto. This should make the rest of the podcast a little more fun.
I was about to do a film called Awake with Harvey. Harvey Weinstein did this for me. Harvey, he did some beautiful shit.
Of course.
I had
as a producer,
my quote was like $60,000 for a movie, and Harvey was like, and I was about to go and negotiate for Iron Man, and Harvey was like, no. He's like, I'm going to offer you a picture for $3.5 million. You're going to decline that offer in writing, and that's going to be your quote for Marvel. And he did that for me. Now I've been offered $3.5 million and I turned that down, so that's now my quote. So we were able to take, my agent was able to take that paper and take it to Marvel and say, this is what his
So
quote
he helped.
is. He helped. He helped for no other reason. No other reason. He was just good people.
Terry, I don't think Harvey Weinstein was such a great guy is the tagline you want people to take away from this interview, unless this is just more of your tactic of bringing up the worst people alive in order to look decent in comparison. Should we talk about Jeffrey Epstein next? Oh wait, Terry has a theory about the JFK assassination.
The night before, he had signed an executive order ordering that the Federal Reserve would no longer be printing the dollars, that the U.S. government will now print the dollars. It was comparable to what happened to Abraham Lincoln. He wanted to do the same thing, start printing money himself instead of having the Federal Reserve.
I'm going to stop you right there, Terry. The Federal Reserve was established in 1913. So no, Lincoln wasn't trying to do anything about a thing that didn't exist yet. As for JFK, I don't know what happened, but of all the possible scenarios, whichever one you think it is, I'm going to go ahead and bet against it.
Do you actually know, I'm not saying this facetiously, how electricity works?
Yes.
Oh, really? Because that's funny.
Ask any question that you've ever had about anything in the
No,
universe.
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Terry definitely has no idea how electricity works, but I love this delusional confidence. Ask me anything, Bill. I am Terry. I know all. What's on your mind?
How can we ensure that I don't die? That's really the question that is most honestly on my mind.
And it's the easiest thing to answer. We have 5 elements in our DNA that make up our DNA: hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, oxygen. All 5 of these elements sit up and line themselves. And if you look at the legs of the DNA, not across the...
Yeah, sure.
If you look at
I
the
know what you're talking about, the helix.
The helix is made up, this is where the phosphorus and the oxygen spits. I'm gonna hold up for a second. You will have one phosphorus waveform, and you have 4 oxygen atoms around it, wrapped around it.
Well, now
then
looks like Terrence Howard is angry.
No, I'm not angry.
God damn it, now we have to listen to this asshole pretend to know what DNA is. A phosphorus waveform? You're looking for atom. Atoms are not waves, and even if they were, a waveform is a graphical representation of a wave. You were wrong twice within a single word. And then this whole song and dance he's doing with his fists for oxygen atoms, he's trying to describe a phosphate group. Wouldn't it be nice if you just knew literally anything about chemistry and could just say phosphate group? And that's the DNA backbone, which are not legs, you science illiterate toolbox. How long are you going to do this?
And then
they're going to steal that picture.
And then off of this oxygen, these legs will start to form. This is the DNA, how the DNA legs start to form up. And that's the ATCG. And that's where the carbon and the nitrogen, and it'll get over here, hit another oxygen that's around 4 of these. Now, when we're young, under this high pressure, we're tight and everything is really good and things work well. The resonance, we got to think that everything is moving with resonance. This will be over in 30 seconds.
He starts by trying to describe base pairing even though he has no idea what DNA bases are. Then comes the bullshit. When we're young and there's high pressure, everything works well. Young DNA works well because of pressure and resonance. Why is Bill not pushing back on any of this bullshit?
Everything is moving with resonance. So as the information is going over, but the older we get, the further we get from the center of our galaxy, we're in a more vacuous space. The wider the space, now there's more room. And so all of the elements that would naturally, the carbon and the nitrogen that would be not right next to each other, or the hydrogen, it's separated out. So other things have gotten in there. That's how we age. So all you have to do, take your prime resonant frequency, because there's a particular frequency that runs through your whole system, that runs across your fingerprint.
Okay, so how,
and you play that back to you under a compressed area underwater. Your whole body will tighten up. You increase the pressure condition. You don't have to die.
Look, I'm just done dissecting these pathetic word salads, okay? I'm Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon, and I'm too old for this shit. But the main takeaway is that stoned Terry is literally claiming to have discovered the key to immortality and expects people not to make fun of him everywhere he goes for his entire life. Bill, nothing?
how can I access this frequency with parts found around the home?
With parts on around it, you can.
Well, I mean,
How?
so I don't need anything special
You
not
don't
to
need
die?
nothing special. You just need to run an electrical current
But
through
I'm
your
going to keep
system.
getting older.
No. Run an electrical current through your system.
Yes, Bill, all you have to do is electrocute yourself and you'll live forever. Is there some point where we can say that Terry is a threat to society and do something about it? Freedom of speech is great and all, but this is really pushing it.
And I just had conversations with Lee Daniels about playing Marvin Gaye, and I was like, I'm asking Quincy, I'm hearing rumors that Marvin was gay, and I'm like, was he gay? And Quincy's like, yes. They would have wanted to do that, and I wouldn't have been able to do that. It wouldn't.
Well, you mean you couldn't kiss a guy on screen in a movie?
No.
Not even, yeah.
No, because I don't fake it. I
Right.
literally, it has to.
I couldn't kiss a man either. That's true, and that does
that
not
would fuck me.
does not
I
make
would cut
me.
my lips off.
Yeah, no,
I
well,
would.
okay,
If I kiss some man, I would cut my lips off.
well,
You would cut your lips off? Look, I get it. Us straight men aren't dying to kiss a man, but isn't this a little melodramatic? And sorry, you don't fake it? You mean the entire thing that acting is? If you can't fake things, then you're not actually an actor, Terry. You see, in movies, the actors are playing pretend. They aren't actually the characters in the movie. I was pretty sure you knew that, since I assumed that acting was the one thing that you're actually good at. You know that lots of other actors have pretended to be gay or straight in a movie, right? Like really good ones. Actually, it's a pretty surefire way to get nominated for big awards. Maybe you just need a few more acting lessons and then you'll be ready.
men attracted to men. I mean, homosexuality is in nature. You know, animals. There are many animals.
Yeah, the bonobos, the
What?
bonobo monkeys, they practice it.
Well, practice it.
They do. All of
well,
them. Their whole the whole colony, everything. The bonobos, the entire interaction is sexual.
It can't be all of it if they still make
No,
it.
but they
they're
still do
making,
that. But it's seen. It's seen in there. It's seen in those places. But for me, what my constitution of what matters as a man for me.
Even better than Terry pretending to know things about bonobos is this part where he's talking about his constitution, referring to his inherent nature, but then starts miming like he's writing with a quill pen in the 18th century, signing the United States Constitution. His stupidity could be its own improv comedy troupe.
How much in 1970, healthy male, how much sperm do you think he produces per heartbeat?
Per heart. I didn't know it was calculated that way. What do you mean per heartbeat?
Per heartbeat, and I'm
like
thinking
every
from
heartbeat you
every
produce some
heartbeat.
sperm?
Yeah, every heartbeat. How much do you think a healthy male from 1970, 1969 would produce?
Oh, 70. Oh, why didn't you say so? 70. Okay. Led Zeppelin was on the charts. I'm going to go with 100 per beat.
1,500 sperm per heartbeat.
And what is
for
it
a
now?
healthy male
And what is
back then? That meant there was 250,000 to 500 million sperm in a healthy ejaculation. Now the healthy ejaculation is 10 to 15 million sperm.
More?
No.
Less?
That's all we have left. 10 to 15 million sperm because of the phthalates, because of the BPAs, all the
Well,
plastics, all of the things that's going into our system. And that's for all the males on the planet, not just us.
All the males, Bill, not just you and me. We aren't the only two that chew on plastic and have low sperm counts. It's everybody.
So it's estimated by 2045 there will not be any males left on the planet able to produce sperm.
Who made this brilliant estimation, Terry? Was it you? Or perhaps your ketamine dealer? Speaking as someone who has successfully fertilized an egg at least half a dozen times, everybody's loads are doing just fine. Give it a rest.
where are they like, Dad, that's old thinking, Dad.
They don't do that.
They don't.
They don't do
So you
that.
see eye to eye and everything?
Because I was too honest with them. Like my daughter got mad at me because when she was 14, I called her and I was like, hey, I feel like killing myself because I was going through all that stuff with getting kicked out of Hollywood and all of that. I put too much on her.
Wow, so you're a dog shit parent on top of everything else. Isn't that not a surprise at all?
They didn't believe anything about the science for the first few years until now, all of the patents, now all of the stuff flying, and now all of the changes and the what AI is doing with it. So now they're like they see me as the greatest hero right now because it's
Wow.
like because at one point my daughters was like, I don't respect you as a man.
This is actually really sad. The first part sounds true. His kids probably know how full of shit he is and maybe even tell him so. But then Terry the narcissist needs to fabricate a better reality. So he brings up his patents that aren't real, and some stuff flying that isn't real, some vague changes which aren't real, what AI is doing with it which isn't real. And if you take all of those imaginary things into account, his kids now think he's a hero. Terry needs to be physically forced into therapy immediately.
This is what happens when just hold it anyway. This is six pentagons coming together. Can you imagine that in the last 6,000 years of our recorded history, no one has ever put six pentagons together that way?
Why? What is it? Why is it good? What does it do?
Well, this became the fractal. This is the linchpin. It's where four bubbles meet.
Yes, we're not going to wrap this up without Terry showing Bill some of his toys, which he's clearly been itching to do for almost 2 hours now. It's a fractal. It's where bubbles meet. This should be the part where Bill tells Terry that this shape has nothing to do with fractals, but he's several drinks in, so I don't think it's going to happen.
Creates the form of electricity
what?
with what you said.
And then what practical end does this give us? Like, what does this
Well,
get? Where does
before
this
we
get us?
thought it was a cube. Now we understand that we have 12 opposing vortices, harmonic vortices that's interacting. So now we're able to predict where planets are going to be, where we can predict all distribution of matter.
We definitely could predict that
No,
before.
but we couldn't.
We could certainly predict where planets were going to be.
Terry, can you at least learn how to say these goddamn words? You're trying to say vertices, not vortices. Your dumb shape has vertices. And no, you can't use it to do any of that shit, which is why you've never used it to demonstrate any of that shit. Bill at least has the presence of mind to point out that Terry is just listing things that we already knew how to do anyway.
Last week, they discovered a planet that's 700 trillion miles away, which is like, I don't know,
4 light years.
No, I think way more than 4.
There was okay. I saw a different one then.
4 light years? Terry, there is not a single star that is within 4 light years of our sun. There are literally 0 exoplanets within 4 light years of us. Got any more stupid to randomly interject?
The story was that this could be or they said it was likely to be, a planet that had life because
Of its proximity to its star.
no.
Another swing and a miss. Why are you pretending to know what's happening right now? Oh, right, the narcissism.
Because they detected in its atmosphere
Methane.
5 different chemicals that are only present when life basically is breathing.
That's the third profoundly wrong answer he's given within about 30 seconds, and yet he still musters up a smug, all-knowing nod at the end of the story. Anything else?
I was very impressed that they could detect this from 700 trillion miles away. So can you explain to me how they could detect what chemicals are in the atmosphere of something 700 trillion miles away?
The answer, Bill, is spectroscopy. We analyze light that passes through an exoplanet's atmosphere, which will then bear the signature of the compounds in it. It doesn't matter how far away the light is. Let's see how Terry does.
You ever heard of a spectrometer?
Have I heard of one? I've got one in my car.
Holy shit, Terry got a thing right. And then Bill said he has one in his car, making him doubly stupid. So are we really going to conclude that Bill Maher is dumber than Terrence Howard? This is pretty unexpected. Let's see if Terry can hang on to this momentum.
No, a spectrometer, it basically, we as humans see only 0.005% of the total light spectrum. That's less than 1/2 of 1% of what is light. A spectrometer is able to see all of the other waveforms that
Right.
we're not able to pick up.
And then by
So there's a chemical that every chemical has a prime resonant frequency by which it bonds or breaks its bonds. That frequency, you can have the Webb telescope sending a laser that's picking up, and that
Right.
consistency,
Wow.
it's able to attach that to the periodic table. It says it has this here, this
Right.
here, this
Okay.
here.
Very good.
And he lost it. Prime resonant frequency doesn't mean anything, and telescopes are not shooting lasers at distant objects. Terry really needs to learn how to say one correct word and then shut the fuck up.
And you see that it still fractals out or scales out with the same 4 vortices that it had. And 4 of those will bond and make larger bonds. And it's all predictable. So the Heisenberg uncertainty principle is gone now.
You still have no clue what the Heisenberg uncertainty principle is, or what chemical bonds are, or what fractals are, or that vortices is not the word you're looking for, or that nobody gives a shit about your dumb toys.
And these things fly.
Fly like a drone?
They fly. No, not like a flight vehicle, not like a drone. Patents been granted worldwide. And I'm like, this should have never made it through.
Shouldn't have.
It should have never made it through. Somebody should have snatched this and said, hey, it's that important of a
Right.
thing.
No, they can't fly, or you'd be making them fly right now. How does he have the balls to make these ridiculous assertions, and why isn't he being asked to substantiate them?
Because I needed the money you go make $2-3 billion off of me and give me, I've got 28 million viewers. The people on Big Bang Theory
But that's your agent's job.
Yes, my agent's job, but they had packaged the deal. So they were incentivized to keep my pay low. And so they're telling me that, no, it's because you and Taraji are favored nations and we couldn't come to a deal with her that we got to keep you at $325,000 an episode when you got 28 million viewers. And they did that for 6 years.
Well, this is starting to make a lot more sense. Terry thinks that $325,000 per episode to play pretend wasn't enough because he's an ungrateful asshole. So he started suing everybody, and now nobody will work with him. Alienating everyone in his industry, making his own children ashamed of him, beating the shit out of women and then accusing them of lying about it. If someone makes it to their mid-50s and is still blaming the whole world for everything that's wrong with them, there's just no hope. They'll go to their grave that way. Anyway, that's about it. This conversation was much lighter on the pseudoscience than Rogan or PBD. It was more focused on light stonery banter that Terry kept trying to shift towards his bullshit, but then relenting when Bill kept bringing it back to whatever he wanted to talk about. Which honestly was refreshing for me, because I needed for this piece to be short. Unless Terry starts talking about me by name and challenging me to debate him or something, I need to not look at this guy's face for a little while. As for Bill, this is a bit of a tangent, but there is a comedian named Kyle Dunnigan who does an impression of Bill that is absolutely breathtaking. Here's just a little taste.
You one of those people? Who thinks you're one of those people? You're not. Okay. Shut up. Okay, you don't. You're wrong. You people, there's no God. Okay.
On November 8th, democracy will be dipped in batter, fried, and then eaten. And for those of us who aren't mag-tarded, it won't be a happy meal. 'Twas the minute before my hooker gets here, and all through the house, my penis was stirring, 'cause I just took a dick pill. So while we wait for my whore and my boner, I would like to take this minute to explain to zillennials what being an adult is.
Tune in next week when my guests are Benjamin Netanyahu and the Haktua girl.
Not only is the voice absolutely perfect, but Kyle knows exactly how to lace into him for being a Zionist jackass and also a lecherous creep who does shit like this.
I mean, first of all, you're adorable, you're cute. You learned that thing about spitting from porn.
And the best part of all this is that Bill Maher hates this impression and hates Kyle's guts, which only makes Kyle do the impression every chance he gets. Here he is whining about it on Rogan's show.
He does a great impression of you.
I didn't know who he was.
Have you ever seen the face swap version that he does of you on Instagram?
No.
Oh,
I don't know what
find
that
that before we leave. What's that? Kyle, did I say Klinsky? Sorry, Kyle.
No,
Kyle
we
Dunnigan.
don't have to look at this. I'm leaving.
It's amazing.
It's absolutely hilarious to me how much of a poor sport Bill is about this, as though he's so smart and sophisticated that nobody should be able to do an impression of him. If he's that upset about people mocking what a garbage person he is, he could just change and be less of a garbage person, but you know what the odds are with that. So in summary, Kyle's impression of Bill is one of my favorite things in the universe, and everyone should support Kyle's comedy. This impression needs to be world famous. And while we're at it, let's see if we can make sure that this video gets more views than the podcast episode itself. It's under 300,000, so it's very achievable. Let's make Bill hate me just as much as Kyle. So that's it for Bill and Terry. Unless Terry suddenly does something really outrageous, I'm probably going to put this toy down for a while, as it's getting a little old. But who knows what the future will bring. Until next time.